Hi guys, Cliff here. I've got a little interlude from the DR1 and it's going to be a build for Dancing Wings Savage Bobber 600mm wingspan, and that's what she looks like. It's going to be a quick build. I plan to build it in 24 hours. 600mm, flying weight 98 grams, 5-inch prop, 2S, all-in-one ESC and receiver. See the mini servos. So let's get a move on. Let's get this thing built, and nice little interlude, as I say. So let's go. So that's the picture of the box. It's a mini Savage Bobber, made for miniature radio gear, and it's all foam, I do believe. So let's have a look inside the box and see what we got. What have we got? What have we got? We got some foamy bits, wings, fuselage, some plywood bits, some electronic bits, carbon rods and hinges and velcro and washers bits, propellery bit, plywood bits, and some fuselage rear cage, glues onto the front foam by the look of it. So let's just get it all out. Don't need a propeller yet for sure, and see what the instructions tell us. Probably won't need motor. Anyway, let's look at the business side of things, shall we? Foam wheels. I think it's probably more of an indoor flyer than an outdoor flyer. Rather cute though. It's like 4mm foam. There that goes then. Aileron. That must fold around, I reckon. It's like some little lines pressed in there, cut through lines, so it must fold around underneath. But let's not do anything till we've read how to do it. This is 23.5-inch wingspan, 600mm, flying weight around 98 grams, which is less than 4 ounces. 4000 kV motor, 2S 5 amp ESC. These instructions don't look much different from the big Savage Bobber I built, which flies very nicely. Assemble the fuselage. Right, so we start with these bits, the plywood bits. Make up that little section, CA it all together, stick it down there, undercarriage. Oh, that's interesting, look. So we've got these wing ribs. That's quite ingenious, isn't it? So the wing ribs go inside the foam, 2 carbon spars, and then the foam is bent around over. That must make for really quite a strong wing, I'd have thought. Shouldn't be any problems. Any problem areas I'll highlight. There's a piece inside of that doorway, look, so it's not really a door. There's a piece in there, so don't go chucking that bit out. Okay. Might be advantageous to glue this together, and then it's gluing. That's got to be sandwiched up like that. I'll get that gluing, and then we can pop it in the fuselage in a minute. That will set off. So let's go back to the instruction page and we need some plywood parts. That's not that one yet. There's another F1. So they have to glue together. There's another one maybe I should get gluing. So there's F2. Again, another wheel bit in the middle of there, which we'll keep handy. Oops. F2 goes on F4. I was rather hoping that would just kiss in there, but just too tight. Hey, that's a pretty good fit now. I'm guessing that's going to be at 90 degrees. That'll go in there. Don't think I'll glue it until it's in. What's next? F3. One of the problems I'm having is that this is very slightly, well, not slightly, by about 0.5 millimetre, not as wide. So the fuselage side isn't going to quite fit on there properly. I know it's all going to glue together. Something to bear in mind is that this F4 tapers, so you can't lay it, well, I suppose you could lay it flat, but it does rock because it's tapered, so you've got to rock it onto the front edge. Let's get F1 out. Get it fitted. In fact, I'm not going to glue it tight in there because there's a small gap at the back. Now I've got to, if I glue it in tight, these aren't going to line up, so I'm just going to glue in the bottom edge like that. And I'll glue the wooden bits together when I've got the other side on. Should be a lot of fun, this little plane actually. So just going to sand the angle on the back of that firewall goes at. I think it's just inhibiting it slightly. And I'm only going to glue the bottom edge because I want the top to be a little bit of movement there just to get it in the other fuselage side. Then I'll glue it all. That's a pretty good fit all round, so I'll glue that in. What I'm doing is keeping the top end of all these floating a bit so as I can get them in the other fuselage side okay. So we've got to stick in F7, F8, F9, lots of carbon bits. F8 is inside the door there. Now what you've got to remember is that these don't actually glue in at 90 degrees because they're going to be raked back ever so slightly, but I'm thinking what I might do is just put a little bit of CA just to obviously hold it in place, and when I join the fuselage side and pull it in the back, then I'll run some more CA to secure it. Tiny little notches on this bit, tiny little notches. Hard to see them, black on black. All right, F12. Wondered where that bit went. Where's it gone? That one there. See, tail post. Time to put on the other side. Paste it on. Paste on the other side panel, it says. This is going to take some jiggling. Probably going to end up doing little bits at a time. difficult to tell if they're actually in or not because of the... Oh, that's why that one's not going in. Oh! That is how you break a former. So be warned, you can't press them too hard. I was just trying to press it to go into that slot. It's a nuisance. I can bend that back into position and glue it, but is it going to be in the right position? I don't want to break it off completely, so I'll have to sort of guess a little bit. It's not bad. That broke halfway down, but oh, it broke there as well, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be gluing onto plywood formers, so it's not the end of the world. Yes, this one, my advice here, part on the earlier part 01-3 or F4 and F41, it's slightly wider than F13, so my advice would be to sand it down to the same width, otherwise you're going to have little problems like I've got now. I'm going to have to sand it after the event. You can't just glue this flat on there, by the way, because you're going to have a fuselage which is flat one side and curved the other. Really important not to glue it laying down. Because this one tapers from about here forward, I'm not going to glue this side. I'm going to glue the bit where it's square, which is these formers here and here. There's a guide. It's going to be to make sure that this is level with that, not below it, not above it, because it's not going to fit if you do. So I think I glued the top of the box here, which I shouldn't have done because it wants to go slightly further back. And it's throwing things out a little bit, so oh. So I think I said keep the top part fluid, and I didn't on that particular one. So now the front should actually, because that is, it comes up automatically because it's tapered. So whilst I glued it flat, if I put the main fuselage now flat, it does curve up as it should. So that means I can glue the front part in. Okay, now we'll work our way down to the back. Like I said, you've got to make sure that it's nice and equal both sides. And it should be, just by putting that back post in, the rest should line up quite nicely. And it does look to be quite nice. I think a good start would be to glue the tail post and then the tops and bottoms. As long as it's all lined up, which it is. Good. Looks true. You can see a true airframe. Can't really go wrong. All the little slots along the top line up. They're slightly different sizes, be aware of that, guys. You got F16 and F17s, so they all go together. So that's an F17 up here. So I'll glue those together and get that glued in. I'll be back shortly. Right, so I've made up the little centre section box and that's glued in. A little bit fiddly, got to open up the slots slightly and what have you, but it goes in okay. Now the next step is the top carbon rod. There's lots of carbon rods, but they specifically say the carbon rod 1.5 by 137, and this one is 136.5. Close enough. Okay, so that one goes from there down to there. I'd say that he's just slightly shy of 137, and it's not quite reaching there, look. It's just that little bit, cut it too precisely. And now I can bend that back former back to pick it up. No, it won't really affect it. It's just that there's a piece of foam that comes down between the wings, but it's going to be supported on there anyway, so I think I can afford to bend it. Okay, so that actually I think is the fuselage finished. Yeah, so now I start gluing on the fuselage sides, the foamy bits. But I'm stopping for a break. I've been at this now 2 3/4 hours, would you believe? Time flies when you're having fun. Pretty little thing though. Surprisingly heavy, mine's a lot of ply in it. Paste 2 portions A5 on the dotted lines on the side panels of the fuselage and fix them with foam glue. I'll put it level, I think, and it's on just a little bit then. So my chosen glue is going to be, I'm going to use Yoo-Hoo Pour, which is a good polystyrene glue. I don't know if you've ever used it, but it's very good. I'll try and put it on quickly if I can. So I'm going to put it up to the front there, and I'll stick it down wherever it touches, there, there and there. Okay, coming on. They do say to stick on some tape on the opposite side to stop it from cracking off. They don't supply the tape, so I might just have some. Here's some. It's sort of like sellotape, but this is hinge tape. Well, it's in fact what it needs to be. That's the rudder made up, nearly. I've now got to put a small cut where the lower hinge is going to go. That's the rudder made. Elevators, insert the carbon sheet using foam adhesive. This is just the elevator joiner. If it won't go in the slot, just squeeze the foam and it'll expand into the slot. And that will then glue onto the fuselage. The little hinge going into the slot in the back of the tail post, and that picking up the slot in the top of the fuselage. Of course, you're looking for a 90-degree joint there. Looks like 90 to me. In F7 and in F8 there's a little moulded hole, a pushrod guide. Notice it on the instructions. They go just face opposite to each other. One faces this way, one faces that way. Right, I'll super glue that hinge there on the inside, and then the leading edge of the rudder just touches onto that top piece of carbon there. So pushing it backwards a bit just to give me a bit more clearance for the rudder to turn without hitting the back of the fuselage. Coming on, guys. I've been at this now coming up to 4 hours. Through. Okay, we'll set that to one side and let it dry. Yay! Okay, clear the decks again. Okay, I've mounted the servos. Something to be aware of, the little pre-drilled holes in the ply, you can't just push the screws straight into them, they don't bite with it. I broke a bit of ply, so I've had to put 2 little bits of 1mm ply just to glue it all back together and give me something to bite into. So it might even be worth, what's that, part F13, it might even be worth putting the servo screws before you even glue it in, and then at least you can drill it out on the bench and get it the perfect size. Okay, close up for you. Elevator on this side, port side, comes out there. The rudder on the starboard side goes out and comes out through there. But that's not bad. Not a bad little install. Let's put that up there and have a look at the wing. We need a wing.